Well, good morning, Squid Schoolers, and welcome to another map mode of the day. Today, our Patreon supporters have voted that we will be talking about Splat zones on the Reef. If you would like to have that input, the Patreon link's in the description. Would really appreciate the support. It helps me to keep this channel going and keep me producing content at the rate that I have been. That being said, time for us to get started. Let's take a look. Reef Zones is one of the best competitive map modes in the game. This is something that I generally hear from competitive players, from analysts. It's very popular. A lot of the time, you know, people will just say, oh yeah, that's a great map mode, and you feel like, sure, yeah, let's go with that. I don't know what your criteria are for saying that. You know, there are a lot of people who think that Moray Towers is a fantastic map. It's not competitively, but maybe they have their reasons for it, like the aesthetic is cool. Maybe they think it's really fun to run up and down it, and they're not considering, you know, at top level play, this is really over-centralizing the meta towards this play style, which is really not fun to play. You know, that's not what's in everyone's head when they think about these things, but let me explain why Reef Zones is so well designed as a competitive game mode. Let's take a look at spawn and think about what options we have for leaving spawn. If we want to get to the right side of the map, the extreme side is to go this way all the way out to here. And you get to about this point almost always without being contested, with the exception of the possibility that somebody from the other team goes up here, and is waiting like over in this direction. That's about the only way that somebody stops this. So it's relatively safe most of the time. If there is somebody who's pushed all the way up to here, okay, yeah, then you have to worry about it. But you can see that pretty obviously if you just check your map. If you want to go out on the other side, you can go down here, down here, down here, and it is only once you drop to this point that you are contested. You can literally get to two completely opposite corners of the map directly from spawn. Why is that a good thing? To show why that's a good thing, let's show what's really a bad thing about a different map. This is Walleye Warehouse. Walleye Warehouse is one of the worst designed maps in Splatoon. Why? Look at your spawn. How many ways can you get out of spawn? It's in exactly one direction. What does that mean? Let's say you've got one enemy player who's right here. They control your entire team's access to the rest of the map. They can be hiding here under this ledge. They can be hiding here under this ledge. They could be hiding behind this box. They could be hiding here. They could be hiding under this ledge. They could be right here in this corridor, just past where your camera can see. This makes it very, very easy to spawn camp and lock another team out. There just aren't that many options for pushing in, even if they don't get that far up. If the enemy team is able to control this much space on the map, it is very hard for you to force your way in, and even if you use Overwhelming Force, the specials, they can still back up to here, and it's still just as narrow a way into the zone. It's only really once you manage to break out into one of these two areas that you're actually able to do anything on the map. And up until that point, you're just sad. On the Reef, by contrast, there are so many different ways out that it is just unreasonable to expect that you can fully lock a team out on this map mode. There is just uncontestable high ground from here all the way around to here. All of this is a spawn area where you can drop out from here, you can drop out from here, you can drop out from here, you can drop out from here. Such a wide angle of approach makes it so that you're never completely out of the game as long as you and your team work together and you don't go in and feed and you spot out other players. Now that doesn't mean that the team that is attacking, that has the zone and is trying to keep you away from it, has no options either. Because a lot of these drops that you have are pretty blind drops over ledges. You can have players sharking here, you can have players sharking here, you can have players sharking here, you can have players playing around the car, and that's really annoying. This area right here is pretty disadvantageous to drop into because you're on low ground and somebody up here can be right peeking around the wall at you. There are a lot of options for defending against this, but there's no one option that shuts down everything like there is on Walleye. You're going to be able to get access to mid a lot of the time, and it's going to be a lot of back and forth. It really is going to come down to which team is better at the game and not which team managed to get enough of a foothold that they could execute a broken strategy to lock the other team out. What that also means is that there's a lot more strategic depth on this map mode. There's an awful lot that I just won't be able to get to in a succinct guide. So if I don't cover, you know, a route that you like to take, something that your weapon is particularly good at doing, I apologize, there's just a lot of that here. But I'm going to talk about the basics of how to play it, and we'll try and cover as much of that as we can. So, like before, we're going to talk about our hot zone. So that's going to mean about this area, roughly speaking, right here. Previously, you know, all of the hot zones have been in 2D space because we can, you know, obviously there's a little bit of elevation change, but we can kind of just draw it on the map. But right now we need to make a distinction, like, is the top of the bridge a part of the hot zone or isn't it? Because obviously the bottom of it is, but what about the top of it? I'm going to say that the top of the bridge is actually the single most important location on the hot zone. Which is strange, if you think about it, because from the bridge, you actually can't paint that much of the zone. You can only paint about like this much on either side before you have to drop down to be able to get the spots that are underneath. You can't even neutralize the zone from the bridge a lot of the time. So why is it so important? It's important because of what the bridge allows you to control. Let's say that the other team has a player here, and they've got someone who's trying to flank on this side. And maybe someone that you've splatted, so now you're in control of bridge. So you're here because you got rid of one of them, and one of them is back here in spawn. You, in this position on bridge, can threaten every one of the opponent's players who are in position to paint the zone. Yes, okay, one of them could push down into the very middle underneath the bridge where you couldn't hit them, but that area is low ground, and either side they try to push up to get out of that, they have to go through your sight lines. If you're able to get a splatling onto the top of the bridge here, they are extremely dominant in that sort of position. If you're able to get a frontliner up here, that frontliner can take some shots and force these players back, and then as soon as they think they have a good fight, they can drop down and pursue those players further to push them out of the hot zone. But they can also have cover from up here. It's also hard to dislodge them from up here. You need someone maybe in a position like this with a sniper trying to cut you out of that position. You need someone to actually rush this forward with something like a K-52 or a Tentabrella to dislodge someone from a position like this. So even if they have numbers on you, they need to devote someone to coming around and pushing you out of the way in order for it to be safe for them to control the zones. Our goal is actually to control bridge first and then to leverage that to force the enemy team out of the hot zone, to push them out in this kind of direction, or if they're over here, usually just to splat them, because at this point, if a player has gone to this position, they're pretty committed. But who knows, maybe they can get up and out of here that way, or you force them back in this direction is more common. Controlling the bridge. Very, very useful to have, like I've said, something like a Tentabrella or a 52 cal because they have a wall. The one thing you don't have a lot of up on top of the bridge is cover. It's very easy for a good charger player to find all sorts of crazy angles to hit you around even these walls, even this slope here that you think you can use to keep yourself safe from shots. If there's a charger watching, you probably just don't want to show yourself on the bridge. You probably want to like throw a bomb and wait for someone else to get pressure on them. Those walls are so huge for being able to move a significant force over across the bridge. Now, if it's just you guys pushing across the bridge, the enemy team has to watch this area here, which is really narrow, relatively easy for them to spot. But you have to watch this whole area right here. You could have someone coming at you from the right, you could have someone coming at you from the left, you could have someone coming from you in front, or all three. You could even have someone coming up from this wall to attack you from even further to the right. So it's not enough a lot of the time just to have an overwhelming amount of force going across the bridge. You want to at least push the bridge with somebody else helping you. This flank right here is awesome. You draw all of the aggro to the bridge, and then this person on the right-hand side can clear somebody out from behind this box. They can maybe, if you see somebody retreating in this direction, dive in on them and get them stuck in the corner here. And if you force players to retreat in this direction, now you're able to move up and take this piece of cover and lock them out of this corridor here. And that's a great position to be in as the attacking side. Eventually, if you do get full control of this area here, what you can do is start to flank the players who are trying to play the zone. Now you've got someone on the bridge, and you've got someone going around this way. So now, if you have one person painting the zone, you have someone on the bridge, and you have someone coming in from this direction, you're collapsing and catching the enemy team, getting them stuck in between you. Maybe some of them run away over to here, and that's fine. This area is relatively irrelevant. They're very far outside the hot zone. Most of the time, though, if you commit to a play like that, somebody is going to get splatted, and it is probably going to be them if you've got such good positioning over them. But remember, we don't necessarily need to splat them. This is splat zones. The goal is to keep them outside of this hot zone. And if you're able to force players out to here to either splat them, make them super jump back to spawn, or force them to run back this way, you can see you are forcing them out of the hot zone. You might, of course, have to watch out for a flank like this, but usually if you've pushed someone this far out of the way, you have a numbers advantage, and the player that you have stationed on the bridge is going to be able to look at that and cut that off before it does anything too harmful. Also, if you're in a position to push them out of there, that probably means that you have most of this painted your color. And so they're walking into enemy ink, and it's going to be easier to spot them out when they try to do something with that. So this is your overall goal. Let's say you get put on defense. Let's say that you are back in spawn and you're trying to approach the hot zone again. Again, you can get out here from here, and this position isn't great for now, but it's also a position that maybe they're not looking at. Because a lot of the time the opposing team is going to have as their idea that they're going to go here, they're going to go underneath the bridge, and then they're going to go up here and lock you out in this angle. And this is the most common angle that you're going to see the other team come out from. But you can just kind of flank to the left, and if they're not watching it, well, you get free access to the back zone, and then they have to turn all the way back around. They give up this whole zone here, and your team is now free to push in this direction because the other team decided that they needed to come and deal with you on the other zone. Let's say that they're watching the left side really hard. Let's say that they've got a good control of this area. Well, you can just drop out all the way over here and be on the opposite end of the map from them. You can, see their backliner who's right over here or right over here and come up behind and pay them a visit. Like I said, very hard to lock this area out. And if you look at where the enemy has been positioning, if you think about what their weapons want to do and think creatively, you're going to be able to find a way back in. And the only thing that you need to be careful about is making sure that you go in when you have advantage, and it's a good time to do so. It's very easy to walk in and just hop over a wall on this map, hop off a ledge, into a waiting shark. Somebody could be sharking here, because somebody could be sharking here, somebody could be sharking here, and all of these players have a play on you if you just go drop and drop. And that's on top of the players who might just be watching you from a powerful position in bridge, which gives them a lot of control over, the whole map. So you need to pick your spots carefully, and you need to think about where you're likely to meet resistance. And on top of that, while you're on this uncontestable high ground, take advantage of that time. Don't just drop in and get scared because the points are ticking down. Take some time and paint for your specials. Once you have your specials and you're able to pop those, that can be a really great signal to the rest of your team that they can move in because the opponents are displaced or they have some advantage. Armor is a huge go time button. Everybody's going to get it. It's going to show up around them, and good players are going to see that and recognize, okay, it's time for us to go and do something right now. Missiles are a great go time option. They're a little bit more difficult to see, and sometimes players are a little bit less likely to act on them, but treat missiles exactly the same as you would treat armor. Any player who is displaced by those missiles, they are vulnerable for a specific amount of time while those missiles are falling. It's not the whole time that the missiles are in the air. You can get a charger shot off during the time that missiles are targeting them and before they fall and splat you. So be very careful if you're fighting against the charger to know exactly what that window is where they are actually displaced. But if you are able to time it right and take advantage of that, you can usually get a pick off of that. Booyah bombs can be a go time special if they're targeted at a good group of players and split up the enemy team. Again, I would urge you to use Booyah bomb not to paint the zones here, but to split up and disorient the enemy team. So yes, you can put it on the zone if they've got like 1 or 2 players on the zone, because these 2 players are going to be forced to run in opposite directions a lot of the time. And that can help you with winning that fight and cleaning them up, with the added benefit that it does actually help paint the zone a little bit. But don't rely on a Booyah bomb just to be able to paint the zones for you. It is not going to hit both zones successfully, even if you get the perfect angle underneath there, which is hard to get. You have very specific positions where you're going to be able to do that. And if you only put it on one zone, you're only neutralizing it with that. You're not actually going to secure it. If you're Booyah bombing, you're not painting. You're not using your main weapon. Your main weapon will paint more than the Booyah bomb will, because you're not going to be sitting up in the air for 5 or 6 seconds holding it out of range of the zones, because you need to stay out of range of the zones so you don't get shot down by the enemy team. That's just taking you out of play for a long time in terms of paint control. You're using the Booyah bomb to start fights. You're using it to instigate. You're using it to move the enemy team around, displace them. That's what the Booyah bomb will really help you do. Rain and missiles are a little bit less useful as painting specials in this map mode because they will land on the bridge rather than painting the parts of the zones in the middle there. So consider that carefully when you decide to use them. That's not saying don't use them. If you throw that over bridge, that can deny bridge, and that might be a thing you want to do. But usually if you're using rain, you're using it so it paints the zone, and it's not going to do that as well on this map mode. Let's talk about what you're going to be doing in different roles here. If you are a Slayer or Skirmisher on this map, you're going to want to get control of like one of the extreme edges of the map a lot of the time. Yes, if you're specifically one of a few weapons, you can probably contest the bridge here. If you're a Rapid Blaster, if you are a K-52, if you are a Tentombrella, you are a weapon that really actually stands a chance of being able to help win the fight over bridge. If you're a weapon that has suction bomb spam, that can be really useful in securing bit by bit your way forward on the bridge and starting to push players back and allow a player with more staying power, who might have something like a wall or a lot of range, to be able to move up there and start locking out this area here. So there are some ways that you can push your way in even if you don't have a massive tank of a weapon or something with a lot of range, but if you're a zippy little frontliner, like a T-Tech or something, you probably don't want to be fighting over bridge that much. It doesn't give you a lot of advantages. There's not a lot of cover. There's not a lot of ways to close distance. You're on a pretty good sight line for a lot of backline weapons to take. There are some disadvantages there. What you might want to do instead, if you're a shorter ranged weapon, is to consider one of the many flank options that you have. You could go out this way and then force players into the players that you have trying to control bridge. You could flush them out in this direction as well. You could take them out in this position. Just watch out because they will have right side peek around this corner. So this is a really good option if players don't see it coming. And a lot of the time, they're only going to see that coming by checking their maps because this is going to be out of their way. Another fantastic option that you always have to be watching for if you're anywhere near this area is that this wall and this wall mirrored across on the other side is paintable. And coming up over the top is a great surprise option. It's a great way to get very sudden pressure that's very accessible from a relatively safe location close to where combat is taking place. Those are the first two things that you usually look for as a flanking frontliner, but if you have most of the control of the hot zone, it's also an option, and this happens more in other game modes than this one, but it's also an option to run under the bridge and come up this side. So you make them think, oh, they're over here on the right-hand side, and then you slip right underneath, and while these players are looking out in this direction, you take out their backliner here. That sort of thing can work out on offense when you have control of the zones. In other game modes, it's a lot stronger because the zones are a focal point of this mode, and so people are going to be looking under the bridge. In other modes, people are a lot less likely to be looking at directly what's under the bridge. This spot right here is an amazing sharking spot. If you can get control of this area here and you're starting to move up, but you don't know if there might be someone over here, sitting right here is so difficult for the enemy team to contest. It's hard to roll a bomb that's going to hit in just the right place. It's hard to paint that area. It's very hard to see that area. But as soon as they actually walk around the corner and get to here, you can splat them right away with something like a roller or a tri-slosher or even just a short-range shooter if you've got the aim for it. When you are coming out on defense, conversely, be extremely careful if you don't think you control this area right here. Chances are there probably is a shark there, and you need to paint it from very far back very carefully and try and spot someone out before you try and take that angle. Another option, of course, on the offensive side is to just come out on the left and make that play earlier. And a lot of the time what's going to happen if you come out on the left, especially on this game mode, is you're going to spot defending players trying to paint the zones from here. Using the tree for cover is great as you approach them. If you're able to get close enough without them looking at you and you're able to get their backs, this is almost a 180-degree flank that you can pull off that they just won't see coming. So that's pretty nice. But if these players are looking at you, you might have to play it a little bit slower. And that's okay, because they now have to deal with both painting the zone and looking over here. That's cutting away from their painting the zone time, and it's also making it so that if they do try and paint the zone, you can maybe move a little closer, throw a bomb, threaten them a little bit more, and discourage them from painting. They're going to be more vulnerable to an attack from the front, and they're also going to be less likely to paint the zone, even if you can't actually make something happen by charging in their face first. Once you do have full control of the hot zone, it's really, really powerful to get into position in this area here somewhere, especially with an ambush weapon, a sharking weapon. This ledge is really difficult for the enemy team to see. This corner is really difficult for the enemy team to see. This ledge is difficult for the enemy team to see. Somebody does get a really solid control and you're on defense, so they have control of this area right here and your team is having trouble dislodging them. Consider just going out this way and trying to circumnavigate them. That's probably the one really good piece of counterplay that you have to that, because trying to really dislodge someone from this position, it takes a lot of time and a lot of resources, and sometimes it's not super worth it. But what you do have to consider, if you're going to ignore them, is that this area right here is one of the strongest places to have control of to be able to push onto the zone from. If you can actually manage to get someone into this position right here called car, this is a really powerful position to deny the enemy team. Because what the enemy team could do is they could roll out here, they could paint their way up here and get specials, and then they could have high ground and be right next to the zone, just a tiny drop away, and already be able to go in and contest it with significant force because they've got the specials to work with. But if you put an annoying skirmisher right here, if you put something like a CDS, a K-machine, a K-52 in this position, this is so hard to dislodge. They can back up and there's just nothing but open space in between you and them. So a frontline weapon just gets kited back by somebody who's in this position, or gets walled off. If you try to put multiple players on them, now you're devoting multiple players to dealing with something that's not in the hot zone, and that's wasting a ton of time for you, even if you do end up getting the pick. If you're able to get something with longer range over here, well, cool, they're still out of the hot zone, and these are the weapons that are going to take the longest to rotate back towards the hot zone, to some place that's relevant again. They could go here, I guess, but that's still not giving them a lot of control over the hot zone. That's maybe giving them this. And a backline weapon is someone that you really would prefer to be taking this kind of position and moving towards the bridge. So that's putting them out of position to be in the place where they would prefer to be. There's not a great way to deal with a good skirmisher who's playing on this position, and if you can actually manage to get someone through this whole nightmare of a maze to make it up into there, that can be a huge thorn in the enemy team's side. And that's one of the ways that lockouts do happen. It's that the enemy team feeds too much to try and control this area here, and they drop down over the ledge against sharking players. Because think about how many ledges there are here. Let's draw a line of all of the ledges where it would be really bad to drop down blindly over. So you've got these, you've got this. Any of these drops that you decide to make. Oh, and I forgot this one and this one. If you're just dropping into enemy paint from any of these positions, you are liable to go down in the next few seconds. You think about somebody controlling this area right here. Now that you know that there's potentially someone here, there might also be someone here because this person has cleared the space for them. So this whole area of the map is probably off limits if someone is able to control your car. And that means that you can't get out here. That means really the only relief option you have is to go out in this direction. And if the enemy team is in an advanced enough position that someone controls car, there is probably someone with a backline weapon on the bridge watching this angle. You might be able to get in from here, but at that point, they're going to be able to see, oh, the zone is starting to change color. Maybe we should turn around and deal with this person who is flanking without having any paint to work with. So that is how you orchestrate a lockout on this map. You have to get frontliners pushed way up so that they're controlling these ledges. You have to get something like a backline weapon or something with some range at least, controlling the bridge. You need to be keeping an eye on the right-hand side. And you need to be wasting as much time as you can by making them fight you up here off the hot zone. Those are kind of your conditions for having a good sustained push as the attacking team, the team that controls the zones on this map mode. It's a lot that you would have to do. You have to get exactly the right people in exactly the right places after the other team has wiped. And that wipe has to happen with your players in pretty advanced positions so that as soon as the wipe happens, they actually do have time to get all the way up. Those are a lot of conditions that you need to meet to be able to lock out on this map, and that's part of what makes it so good, that the fight is not necessarily over even if one team does get a very significant advantage. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. It's hard to cap the zones, so you can keep them neutral, you can keep that fight going for a pretty prolonged period of time, and stall out until more teammates are able to arrive and you're able to keep the zone. You've got a pretty good shot from any position that you are in the game of actually being able to get back to the zone and neutralize and get control back. All right, supports. Supports are one of the most important members of the team in splat zones because they have the most paint output. And paint output is the way that you control the zones. So if you're going to be putting a support out there, they're probably going to be in a position like this one where they have easy access to painting the zones. They are not the weapons that are going to be the best at dealing with what's on bridge, although if you've got an end zap or something, throw a suction bomb up there every now and again. Who knows? Maybe it'll help. But a lot of the time, you're going to be the one who is trying to hold it down over here to get control of the zones, or in a lot of situations, rather than doing that, you're going to be the player who is painting up something like this area so that you can get special, popping armor from here and then starting to push in with it and trying to work with your slayers to maybe collapse on players from here, to maybe use the bridge position to collapse on someone, but to get control of this area again so that you can move back into the zone and paint it safely. Painting the zone is a very obvious, very exposed position. You got to be very careful to pay attention to what is keeping me safe right now. If you're right here and you've got like a heavy splatling watching this direction from here, maybe you can be a little bit more aggressive in trying to paint the zone because you know that someone's got your back if somebody tries to flank. Maybe if you have a frontliner coming around in this position, you can start to push more aggressively for the other side zone because you know that the other team is distracted, and maybe getting their side zone painted your color and actually capping it paints the feet of an opponent who is trying to stand on this location and now can't because it just turned blue because you capped it. Those sorts of plays work, but you have to make sure that you have support as you're going for them. You cannot take the zones by yourself unless you are left completely unattended on the zones. And you need to know if you're completely unattended on the zones. It's not always easy to know that because you don't have a great vantage point on what is going on above you on the bridge. So it's important to be a little bit on the cautious side, err on the side of painting safely and farming special. As soon as you see like 2 players on your team going down, you need to figure out where they're going down from, stay away from that area, potentially jump back, because saving your special is more important than you maintaining map control for another 5 seconds in a 2v4 before you get collapsed on. Once you have control of the zones, make sure to try and paint up for another special so that you can meet the opposing side's special push with one of your own. Because they're going to want to just kind of paint this out or paint their way out here and paint some of this up, get specials, and then make a rush at the zone from there. You want to be ready with your own special so that as soon as you see an armor getting popped or a missile getting popped, that you are popping your armor or your missiles or whatever else, and you're slowing them down from trying to retake any control using those specials. Backline weapons. We're going to start by showing off Devi's backline positioning map as usual. As a backliner, there are only so many positions you're considering because every other option that you could consider has to compete with you standing on top of bridge. This is just a really, really powerful position for a backliner to take. Gives you access over the entire hot zone, and it allows you to deny a lot of the routes that other players can take to get different angles on the hot zone. Putting someone up there is one of the win conditions. Controlling this is really valuable. But let's say, for instance, you're not able to get many shots from here. They're standing out here, they're standing out here. Difficult positions for you to deal with. Or maybe you just need a better angle on the zones to paint them for a little bit. This position is also a pretty useful one because it gives you the ability to, back up as needed, but it also gives you this crossfire angle that can flush people out of the zone area, and that can be really helpful for frontliners if the angle that you've got on top of the bridge isn't doing it for you. Those are your main offensive angles. That's really about all that you're going to be looking at if you're playing traditional offense. But there are a couple of non-traditional positions that Devi likes to take. One of those is right here. That gives you an angle up in this direction or up in this direction that might help you catch some players coming back from spawn. You could also put someone right here. This would give you a good angle on this area. And if somebody's trying to maybe come out from this direction and you're reading that like a book, then maybe that's something that you go for. You do have to be careful on this position that somebody doesn't just use this big wall to drop down on you, because that is a way that they can use cover to get close to you and attack you at that point. That's one of the reasons it's non-traditional, that it is flawed in that respect. But another position that you might consider taking if you're trying to break a lockout is to go up here and use that for defense. And this gives you a good line of sight over this whole area here. It's just, if you get bombs thrown at you or missiles or something, you need to be careful and make sure that you're able to walk away. This is something that's better suited to a Splatling, because a Splatling is going to have run speed and is going to be able to walk on that unpaintable turf better than most weapons. Finally, on defense, obviously never drop over a ledge unless you are absolutely sure that it is clear underneath you. A position like this can be pretty useful. A position like this, once you have a little bit more control of car, can help you secure this area for yourself. And if your team is prioritizing, especially the push going out in this direction, putting yourself here can provide some really useful crossfire so that as they push out in this direction, they push them into your sight lines, and you can cut the opponents off from retreating to this angle. Key positions. We've already talked about bridge. Bridge is extremely important. In order to control bridge, you're going to want control of these two areas right here. You're also going to need to watch out for this wall and this wall, which are common flanks to get around on the bridge. You also need to watch out for backline weapons that are taking a position on here. This is called lamp. Lamp is a position which often has angles that can hit bridge from if you're something like a charger player. So if you're on bridge, you need to make sure that that lamp is clear of long-ranged weapons that could potentially hit you. You also need to be a little bit careful of someone getting up on this wall and using that to get an angle across the way. There is a really neat trick where if you paint the side of the bridge here, you can actually swim up from the wall, get on the sidewall here, and then pop up unpredictably over the side. It takes a lot of setup, and there are a lot of points of failure in that approach, but it is an option. So if you've seen someone popping up all over bridge and you don't know where they came from, consider that that might be something that they're going for. This position right here is one of the best places to retreat to when you are getting forced out of the hot zone, because this position does give you a way out that gives you a lot of cover. So usually if you're going this way and you're getting chased by someone over here, all you have to do to get yourself safe is get on this side of the ramp, because now they don't have line of sight on you. You have a little bit of cover right here that you could right peek around if you wanted to, or if you need to just hightail it out of there, you can just get around the corner here, and now you've completely cut off this angle from being able to see you. That's a really good way to keep yourself safe and keep yourself alive in those kinds of situations. It's very unlikely that someone's going to push all the way across bridge and go down this way to mop you up, and if that is something that you see coming, just get to this side and super jump back to spawn, and then you should be safe. On either side, that's really symmetrical depending on attack, defense, but you could be here on attack and you could be here on defense, and you could be vice versa. The map, gives you a lot of options for how to play it. And in any situation that you're getting forced away from the zone, that's one of the first places to look to, because it allows you to stay close to the hot zone while staying significantly more safe. If you just hole up right here, zone them out of maybe this area right here, and don't get collapsed on, that can buy you a lot of time for the rest of your team to get in here, start applying some pressure, and then all you have to do is drop over this ledge or drop down over here, and you're right back to the hot zone again. So that's one of your best places to retreat to, if you'd like. We've already talked about the powerhouse that is controlling the enemy car. That is a lockout condition. That's kind of a win condition right there. If you're able to control that, absolutely go for it. Some weapons are going to control this space better than others. Any ambush weapon usually has a pretty good time here, but you've got to be really careful about when the opponents know where you are, how you plan to play that, how you plan to waste their time, how you plan to back up, how you plan to kite them. Finally, when you are finally making a push to completely control the zones, one piece of cover that you want to make sure that you are paying a lot of attention to is this box right here. It's one of the only available pieces of cover for players to stand on high ground over here and shoot at the zone, the other one being the tree. The tree trunk is actually very, very useful as cover. It's a small piece of cover, but that's usually all you need against something like a short-range shooter that is trying to flush you out. So make sure to make good use of that if you end up in a fight in that area. This piece of cover is really important to flush players away from. So throw some bombs on the other side of it. If you see a teammate shooting one side, you shoot at the other and try and force that player away instead of just letting them run circles around that piece of cover. Main goals. One of the big win conditions is controlling bridge, and a lockout condition is controlling car. If you've got those two spaces, you're probably going to score an awful lot of points, and you might just win the entire game from it. Remember, to complete this lockout, you are going to need to have some kind of plan for if somebody drops from one of these two angles. Maybe the bridge can cover this guy, but who's covering this? If you have nobody covering that, or if you spot that your opponent who's defending against you trying to come in isn't covering this, then this becomes a way that you can get yourself back in the game. It's a relatively quick, straight shot to get to the zone from here. So you can spawn, paint all of this up to get a bunch of special charge, and then drop down and be very close to the zone right away. And remember that once you're down here, you can just double back and use this area, which is really good to retreat into strategically so that you can kill some time, draw a couple of players off the zone in this direction, and hopefully relieve some pressure from the rest of your team as they push in from the front. While there are a lot of different plays and interesting parts of this map that I couldn't cover here, I think I've done a pretty good job of at least getting the basics across to see how the flow of the game works. As with all of these guides, I would definitely encourage you to think, okay, these are what my team needs to do, but which of those things is my weapon good at doing? Am I playing an ambush weapon that's going to want to play underneath the ledges like I was talking about earlier, or play around car? Am I playing a long enough ranged weapon that I can try and control bridge? Am I playing a weapon that has a wall or something that can help me contest bridge at the beginning of the game? Or am I playing a weapon that's more suited to trying to paint the zone and stay safe and paint for specials so that we can push in with overwhelming force? You need to kind of have an idea of what your playstyle is going to be to know how you fit into that game plan and what you can accomplish in order to help your team get there. But if you are able to control those major positions, it's not a map where KOs are impossible. It's just a map where you really have to work your butt off to get them. Good luck out there. That's going to be it for us for our map mode of the day. Really appreciate you guys watching. If you like the content and you would like to support it further, I do give my Patreon supporters the ability to choose which map modes come first. So if you would like that, the Patreon link is in the description. Even if you can't support financially, I would really appreciate a like, a subscription, a comment below. All of those are going to be really helpful for growing the channel. So appreciate that all the same. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.